Okay. Hi everyone, and I'm thrilled to be joined by the lovely Andrea O'Grady today, who's a physical therapist and also a Pilates teacher based in Meath, but it doesn't really matter where Andrea is based because we're all online these days. So Andrea, welcome, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Catherine, delighted to be here.
Yeah, no, it's great. I guess exercise, as most of you know, I'm quite passionate about. Running is my first, go-to for exercise, but I'm definitely trying to include more kind of core and strength training, and Pilates and yoga. I would kind of see as the big ones there. So I guess, Andrea, what we just want to chat about today is the benefit to women. And I should also mention that the work that you do is quite specialized too, in relation to working with women who've had injuries or pain and so forth, and trying to kind of bring them to the other side of that. And I would see a lot of women kind of from the mid 40s onwards who may be suffering joint pain, aches and pains and different things at different stages of the menopause journey. So I'm sure that's something that you come across as well.
Absolutely, hugely. And a lot of people put it down to injury, maybe suspect that they have arthritis, and they don't really understand that it could be a fluctuation and change in the hormones just because they're approaching that stage. And a lot of people I see are really shocked to actually realise that there's plenty of simple things that they can do to help alleviate it through the exercise, especially using Pilates. Very easy, simple exercise to do to create mobility and flexibility, and to really alleviate that pain.
Yeah. And do you think with them, so say, for anyone now, with lockdown and everything, obviously tons of people are going on to online classes and so forth to kind of, when you can't get out to classes, but you can easily do Pilates and yoga or any of these classes at home just as effectively as being in the room.
Just as effectively. And the thing about it is that it feels weird at first to come on camera. And I would see a lot of people come on initially into my online classes and they turn their cameras off. And I really encourage them to turn their camera on, because just like in a class when we're in the same room together, nobody really has time to be paying attention to what the person on the mat next to them is doing. And because you get so focused in on yourself. I like to say, well, at the start of a class, just unplug everyone and focus on you. And once you get going, you focus on your breath and your movement. The outside world and what's going on around you really does not matter, which is vital during perimenopause and menopause, because we get so affected by the noise that we're surrounded by because of what's going on inside of us.
And we all come to it with a lot of noise anyway, don't we, in terms of, we've so much noise in our heads. God, it's one thing I talk a lot about is, like ongoing stress and the constant, noise, and the fact our brain just so needs the downtime that it can just basically just rest, just get a break, and that's where I think anything like Pilates, where you're concentrating on your movement and your breath, is just key.
Absolutely. And what I say to people who come to me, people wouldn't specifically come to me because they're in that stage of life, but they get referred to me because of lower back pain, continence issues, pelvic issues. I see people post C-section. I see people with diastasis, which is the separation of the abdominals. And it might have happened years previously, but they're experiencing back pain because of it. And as we go through it, they're sort of in that stage of life. They're coming into their 40s, mid 40s and beyond. And the side effect of doing Pilates exercises, which are low impact, have a massive effect on our mental health. The breathing technique helps us calm down. And like any type of exercise, it creates a connection between your mind and your body, and it brings you out of here back into what's really going on and puts you in a more flow state. and arrest and digest. So we're not in that fight and flight, the amygdala firing on all cylinders, that cortisol rushing through the body, inflammation. It brings you to a much calmer state of being. Mm-hmm. And you're just doing a few Pilates exercises. It's as simple as that. You don't have to think about all the side effects while you're doing it and all the good stuff. You just do it and you feel better in yourself. You feel stronger and you feel more confident, which is really important, I think, during perimenopause and menopause. I'm slap bang in the middle of it now, as we discussed. We won't go down that rabbit hole of my symptoms, but we're here for a very long time. But you know, we feel really let down by our bodies at this stage in life. Some people can feel really down about it. And for me, once I get on my mat and I do the movement that I can do today, I stand stronger and more confident in myself. And I just feel, you know, I feel like I can kick a bit of ass, you know, I feel, you know, okay, bring it on.
Yeah, bring it on. Yeah. I think like that's, you know, I can equate that to, you know, when I put the runners on, I'm out the door. Like at the moment I'm running in the dark in the mornings, and it's just, oh my God, after the first mile is always hard, always. But after that, you just go into this flow. You know, it's just your head is gone, as in you're just running, you're breathing, your lungs are working, you're not thinking. The noise goes because you're focusing on the next, you know, whatever your next distance is or whatever. So, you know, I think it's the same when you're on the mat, and that whole concept of the grounding aspect of Pilates, I think is for women. I mean, I'm always harping on about this, but I sometimes think it's so hard to really get how important anything that we can do to help stress is, because in menopause and perimenopause are biggest across the majority of the symptoms, not all of them, but the vast majority of the symptoms. Our biggest trigger is stress, you know, with you've the hormone decline, obviously, but an exasperation of it is stress. So everything that you can do to help that is beneficial.
And everything, any trigger that happens in this stage of our hormonal sort of roller coaster, any trigger gets really magnified. And I have struggled with anxiety for all of my life. And for years, I didn't know what it was. And I thought there was something actually wrong with me. And it's the way I'm wired. And for me, my flow state is movement. So if I move my body, if I'm feeling a certain way in my head, like we live in here, our body goes on. Our body just goes on as normal. It's a phenomenal thing. It's a miracle. Our body just lives, but we live in our life in here. So anything we can do to take ourselves out of that anxious state and connect with movement is flow. And for some people, it's art. For others, it's, you know, it could be cycling. For you, it's running. For me, I used to run. I don't so much anymore. But, you know, getting out for a really fast walk and getting the heart rate up, you know, that's the flow state. And that's what brings that neuro connection to our nervous system. So our autonomic nervous system chills out. It actually, you know, it's like you said, here, have a cup of tea, sit down and relax to your nervous system. And you can just be in that moment. It's like mindfulness. Some people meditate.
Yeah.
Mindful movement. And it's a really, really powerful thing that is underutilized for so many.
Yeah. And the other thing, like we know in terms of when you look at all the lifestyle, the preventions that you can do in terms of helping, say, brain fog, memory, concentration, cognitive function, we know that exercise is up there as, you know, one of the top things you can do to kind of, you know, keep the brain fresh. And the key there is just get the noise out of the brain and just give that poor brain a rest, which is what
the volume right
Right
down.
down.
Right down. And then the byproduct of that is the endorphins come in, and then the serotonin is produced, that feel good hormone. And that's very closely connected to the production of melatonin in the evenings. So you actually, by moving and by stimulating your body, creating that movement in those muscles, you're helping with the joint pain. But at the back end of that day, the sleep, then melatonin can produce itself much more easily. And we all know sleep is a major factor.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And if we can't sleep, we can't heal.
Yeah.
And we can't repair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talk to us a bit, if anyone isn't convinced at this stage to go and do Pilates, they should be by now, but to tip them over the edge and really convince them why they have to do Pilates is talk about the core strength, the pelvic, because I obviously know the benefits here, but just for people who maybe are not familiar or maybe thinking, shouldn't I start Pilates? Just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing I always say about Pilates is, people say core. What is actually your core? What's core strength? I call it the engine room. Okay, it runs the show, our core, and it involves our pelvic floor, our diaphragm and muscle of breathing, and all those lovely muscles that wrap around our waist, that pull in and support. It's like a corset that wraps your body. And when we've got any type of joint pain, anything going on, there's a lot of pressure that comes from our core. And if there's any weakness in there through, not exercising, injury, C-section, any type of childbirth issues, connecting into that and actually waking those muscles back up through a series of mat work exercises. You use your own body weight, you move gently, it's low impact, and you start to just draw those muscles in to support. So imagine the spine in the middle, and it just pulls right in, like somebody has shrink wrapped you in a beautiful hug, and you can stand tall and you can move whatever way you want to. So you connect to the engine room and everything else can operate as normal.
Yeah, and we know, the importance of the pelvic area. God, it's so important in kind of perimenopause, being so estrogen dependent, that the more strengthening and everything that we can do to kind of keep the flexibility there, and the tone is just, it's so important.
Hugely. And I've had, like that, people in their late 40s, in their 50s that have come to my classes because they want to do Pilates and have stress incontinence issues. They leak when they exercise, they leak when they run. They might have some sexual health issues. They mightn't have the strength or the tone that they had before. And they said, oh my God, there's a massive difference now because because the essence of the Pilates work is we really connect to our pelvic floor. So it's imagining, people say, do your Kegel exercises and squeeze that muscle as tight as you can and then let it go. And the approach with the stop Pilates, which is what I practice, is, more like, drawing air up through a straw, and you're really connecting on a very gentle level.
Yeah.
And in gentle ways to your pelvic floor. And you're actually, so it's not like squeezing it to the death out of it. You're gently contracting it and you're gently releasing it. So you're strengthening it as it contracts and as it releases. And that foundation then allows the rest of your muscles to really strengthen and to actually wake up, because in a lot of cases they're just asleep, they're not working effectively. Inhibited is the word that we use, but once you wake those guys up, then it's a game changer.
Yeah, and I know Maeve Whelan, who's the pelvic physio here in Dublin, she would say that it's no longer this thing of sitting on the toilet and clenching everything. We know that that's not the way to do it. It's the breath work with the slow contraction. That's where the value is. That's where the kind of, you're not going to overstress the muscles, but you're gently awakening them and kind of bringing them back into play. As such. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the byproduct of that is that any sort of issues that you may have had in the past with back pain, or issues after a C-section, and I see a lot of people that have SPD, syphilis pubis
Oh
disorder.
yeah.
They would
Yeah.
have had it where there's a separation between the pubic bone, and they have back pain and they don't understand why they've back and hip pain. And it's a simple thing that there's instability in that area. And once that's corrected, and you understand the self-care aspect
Mm.
of it, you can just go off and do the work yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's really empowering to know I've done that little few minutes work for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can do Pilates in 20 minutes. You don't
Yeah.
have to do an hour of it to feel
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a key thing, Andrea, is the fact that, and that's like what I'm really all about, is trying to empower women with, look, these are the things you can do to help yourself. And it isn't, it's a bit like that, some people kind of think with meditation, and God, they have to be Buddha up on a mountaintop. I'm always kind of like, no, you could just be walking and just be mindful of the trees, or you could be washing the dishes and be mindful of the dishes. It's just taking the time, and every small thing you do, like doing even if it's, 20 minutes of Pilates, every little thing you do, it just supports you. And we know in menopause, you really have to support yourself through it so that you're there for your friends, for your family, or whoever, because if you don't, it becomes a harder journey for you and for anyone else as well.
And you hit the nail on the head there. You've got to support yourself through it. And that's why the work that you do, Catherine, is so, so important. Because if as women, we don't understand what's actually going on, we tell ourselves those stories that we're failing, or we're not good enough, and all of that type of thing. And it's just because we don't have the support or the knowledge that we need to make the right choices, those
Yeah.
right choices. And there's so many aspects of wellness that can impact the menopause. That's why, you look to exercise, you look to nutrition, you look to mindset, and you look to things that can support that. And you look at the natural remedies as well. There's so many
Yeah.
out there. There
Yeah.
isn't a one thing fixes all approach.
No, I know, because everyone, everyone is different. I mean, I was working on some stats over the last week, and I think it's globally, is it something like 25 million women will go into the menopause transition per year. Those 25 women will all have a different experience, and so that means that, it's HRT for some, for others it's acupuncture, for others maybe they don't need anything. It really depends. Some will suffer the more symptoms, and some maybe don't. It really depends. But I know, and as well, the benefit of bringing exercise of any shape or form into your habits. But I think as we get older, the power of the core exercises, that strengthening, is definitely, I know it's on my mission for this year, because I know, yes, I can run, and I can run 10 miles or whatever, and I have the lung capacity or whatever, but my core isn't as strong as it could be. And running can do that to you. It can give you the strength in your legs and in other places, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have that. You have stamina, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have the core strength. So you kind of have to do the two together.
Absolutely. And I work with a lot of runners in my clinic. They would come in for injury treatment and sports massage and that sort of thing. And any of them that have come to practice Pilates with me have said that their running has improved as a result of
Very good.
course.
I was just going to ask you that. Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Like that, and surprisingly so.
Yeah. Yeah.
People who would really look at their pace, and compete, their times have got better.
Okay.
And even more importantly, for everybody, even those who are just social runners, social joggers, they recover better.
Right. Okay. Okay. That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. There's another tick as to why to do it.
And you know, the other side effect of Pilates, as I call it, is a positive side effect, is our bone health, because it's resistance, and
Yeah.
you know, we're working on that core strength, and you know, it helps our pelvic health, it helps our anxiety and our mood, helps our sleep, um, alongside good nutrition and
Yeah.
all the other
Yeah.
things that we
Yeah.
talked
Yeah.
about. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't just do it on its own. You have to
Yeah.
support it with those other elements. But on a cellular level, the when estrogen drops, our ability of our bones to create more calcium and to
Hmm.
recover and heal drops too. So that's why resistance training is so important. And your bones can be supported by Pilates. They get stronger. And that in itself is, you know, less falls, better
Yeah.
balance,
Yeah.
less risk, especially. And a lot of women are diagnosed with osteoporosis from a
Yeah.
genetic point of view.
Yeah.
It runs in families. My mother had it herself, and you know, each DEXA scan I had over the years, I had a couple of dodgy ones when I was much younger, like 10,
Okay.
12 years ago when it came. And now everything's green. There are no red zones in my DEXA
Okay.
scan
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
after 10 years of practicing Pilates. So it's a thing that isn't talked about as much.
Yeah.
It's more core strength, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it's a really, really important thing to consider, particularly if there's osteopenia in this system or in the scene for you.
Okay, yeah, very good. Because there's a lot of women that I would work with, and I'm sure a lot of people who watch this that may have had a DEXA scan done and may have osteopenia. I know I've got my letter to go. I just need to go and organise to get one done myself. That's on my list for the next few months. But I'd certainly be hoping my bones will be good. But I mean, you don't know until you've had the DEXA scan, and particularly I work a lot with younger women who may have been diagnosed with premature ovarian insufficiency, which is an early form of menopause, and their bone health is really important in terms of making sure that, you know, again, they have the exercise and they're keeping strong and so forth. So I must remind them of that at our next meeting. But yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah. And
It's important.
why did you have the DEXA scan because of your mom? Because I know you're
Yeah.
younger than me, so because of the history in the family.
Yeah. My,
Yeah.
my
Okay.
mom had, you know, really very brittle bones
Okay.
and
Okay.
very, very severe osteoporosis and a couple of falls and fractures of
Right.
the vertebrae and things like that.
Yeah.
So because of
Yeah.
that, I said, I better go and get myself checked.
Yeah.
So I would have been, she passed away when I was 30. So it was just after that, I said, I'll go and get a full MOT and we'll just
Yeah.
see if we
Yeah.
head it off at the pass if there's anything going on. And sure enough, and I always had issue with my back and
Okay.
my right hip. And sure enough, that's where it showed up,
Right.
osteopenia.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
was on that very fine line between heading from osteopenia into osteoporosis.
Right.
And that's the important thing to point out, is that it's reversible.
Once you
You
work
can make
really, yeah.
huge,
Yeah.
depending
Yeah.
on where you are on the scale, there's
Yeah.
always something that you can do
Yeah.
to improve
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. 2 years later, when I went back for my next one, everything was great.
God, that's brilliant, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
So is there
Yeah.
ever a better incentive to keep
Yeah.
practicing? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Yeah. I must definitely get my, although I don't know with COVID if they're doing them or what the story is, but I must follow up on it. But I did actually, I think probably most people watching here who've seen, I did an interview with a radiologist, a former radiologist who now, sells DEXA scans to the hospitals here in Ireland, or she's part of that team. And it was brilliant because she kind of talked us through the importance of the DEXA scan and, you know, why to get it and so forth, you know. But it is like just to have a gauge, to have a measurement of where you're at is really important. And particularly for anyone with early menopause, it's even more important that they get those DEXA scans done, you know, when they're diagnosed, or if it's, you know, early menopause due to other reasons, you know.
Yeah. And like that, it gives you a gauge of sort of where you are. And then you can put some very simple things in place to really combat it. And it's not about, oh my God, I have to go and start exercising like a lunatic now, or, you know, learn how to crush a nut with my Kegels, or any of that type of thing. You know, it can be like, it's such a serious subject, and it can be really, really scary. And, you know, there's so much we can do, and we can have a bit of crack along the way. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom, because it is another chapter. It's not the end.
No, I mean, I think that's menopause in a nutshell. It isn't doom and gloom. You know, I'm forever saying that. Once you get a handle on the symptoms and all of that, and if your lifestyle and, you know, whatever your personal treatments plan is, there's so much more positives to menopause, you know, but it's, you know, that's part of the life transition, you know, I guess that's there.
Trying to break through all the noise.
Yes, the noise. Yeah, you can, and I guess that's one thing that I would see is that their overwhelm can set in. So what I really try and do is just, you know, make it very clear, get the clarity, so that there isn't overwhelm, but there's clarity, and you can kind of see your way down the line, which is, you know, see the good parts.
You can start with the small
big
things.
Time. Yeah.
It's like
always small.
James Clear, Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read the book.
I have read it.
It's saying, you know, the problem isn't you, it's the system. You know, so it's the small, tiny habits that create this brilliant foundation for change. So that's why if you pick these little nuggets and you apply them in the different areas, it can make just such a massive difference to your health.
Big time. All for small change. Don't make it big. That's why I don't really like the whole January resolutions thing. I think you're better off just, you know, keep reviewing as the year goes on, and, you know, tweak as you need to, and keep it small is, you know, is so much more effective. I think. Absolutely. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, Andrea, thanks a million for all your tips and advice. And I'll put some details in the blog when I put this up, of where people can contact you and your online classes and everything. Because certainly, God, we've no excuse not to be doing it when we're in lockdown.
Absolutely. And I've found I've done classes myself, because I run a lot of online classes. So I've joined some classes with other teachers myself, and I've done some yoga, and, you know, it doesn't have to be a long class. It's just a very short thing, and it makes you feel amazing. And sometimes it's the thoughts of it and the apprehension. And once you can get over that and just, you know, press that button and go on to it, it's going to make a massive difference. Like that, and if you're struggling, pick up the phone and just ask for the advice.
And once you get through the first one and figuring it out, I think then it's pretty much, it's, you know, then you'll feel the benefits after it, so you'll be back for a second one. You know, exactly. I think that's the key. Well, listen, thanks a million for chatting today, and I'll share all your details and so forth, so everyone can follow you and hook into your classes. Okay, thanks everyone. Not at all, and thanks everyone for watching. Thank you.